Hello, my magical friends. Welcome to this Tuesday live chat. Okay, folks, I'm a huge fan of the filters, but I don't know if I like this one at all. Do I look funny to anybody else? Okay, be kind. Be kind. Thank you for joining me today. Either you are here live or you're catching it later. I am so grateful for all of you that make a point to either join me on Tuesdays for the Tuesday live chat or TLCs, or catch me at a later time that works for you. So grateful for my magical friends. Okay, today we are talking about loving your animal to death. Literally, figuratively, everywhere in between. And if you are not familiar, I am Dr. Andy. I'm a certified animal chiropractor in Colorado. I play with consciousness, and I play with looking at things very differently with your animals and beyond. Hi, Miss Keisha. Mwah. Thank you for joining me. Hi, she says. Hi, everyone. Got a little galaxy going on here today. Okay. Oh, I should have gotten hearts. And you know what I did? It just dawned on me as I'm like setting up my stuff. You know what I also didn't turn on was my light. Hang on, folks. Hi, Amber. Let's see. Better? Worse? The same? Okay. I don't know how I forgot the light. Anywho, loving your animal to death. Literally, figuratively. So, I learned something new this week. My clients are my greatest teachers, my greatest conscious facilitators, and I learned something new this week. I learned a new question to ask. I've never particularly made a point of asking this because I assumed, right? People only fed their animals twice a day. General rule of thumb. Not sure where it came from. Not sure if you subscribe to it. Some people feed once a day. Some people, when they have a senior animal or have a puppy, add in lunch. But beyond that, I have never actually asked somebody how often they feed their animals. And I had a little critter, cute little critter, who was being fed every 3 hours. Mom had read on the bag that she needed to feed this animal a cup full of food, and the only way she had found to get it all in the animal was to feed it every 3 hours. And it stopped me cold. I'm like, and I had so many like judgy thoughts, right? Judgments go through my head. And it kind of came down to the energy of like, gosh, I wouldn't have time for that even if it was required. Yeah, Amber put a little brain explodey thing. It stopped me cold like every 3 hours. A, that's a lot of time. B, that's a lot of energy projected at a little critter. And this is a small dog, a very small dog. How much time that takes. And what I think is interesting, and maybe I'm the weirdo here. It's very possible. I could be the only one on the planet. But feeding guidelines on dog food, the amount of toothpaste you're supposed to put on your toothbrush, to most serving sizes, what is the manufacturer's agenda? To sell you more toothpaste, to sell you more dog food. So what if they're just recommendations, right? They're just guidelines. They're just an idea of where to start. They are not mandatory. They are not law. They are just recommendations. We were having a conversation about this, and I'm like, you need to stop feeding the dog. Just stop. Because the dog had been struggling with anal gland issues. They kept refilling up. They weren't Amber's like, yeah, I'm not even home to feed them that often. Neither am I. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this dog is 6, I think. Has that dog ever been hungry? And they would talk about her being picky about what she eats. She wouldn't even take a treat from me. That's because she was never hungry. And I know we live in the US. How many of us ever let ourselves get hungry? And what if that's not awful if we get a little hungry? What if our animals getting hungry is an okay thing? But they're struggling with what she'll eat because she doesn't really want to. Okay, she was always being, here's some more food, here's some more food, here's some more food. She never even got hungry. And so she's very, very picky, wouldn't take treats. And I'm like, this is such a bizarre little critter. Because mine, as in most clients and households, right? You know, you get close to that and they, you know, let's say they eat at 5 o'clock. At 3:30, they're like, hey, do you think I could get something? I'm a little hungry now. Do you think I can get something? Like there's this whole ritual thing that starts, right? When you have hungry animals that are so looking forward to their meals. This little critter never even got hungry. She never even asked for anything. It just shows up and she's got to like put some in her mouth to make sure that, and this was mom's point of view at the time, that she got that whole cup of food in that dog, which may or may not even have been required by this animal. And so I went to my recommendation of just stop. We need to stop. We have been to 3 different vets. She has been adjusted, which sometimes do help with anal gland stuff if you have that going on. That didn't seem to make an impact. She's going to a homeopathic vet. Like, we're doing all this other stuff and nothing is changing with these anal glands. They keep filling up. She's still uncomfortable. They're still scooting. They're still spinning. Like, you know, it's not fun. And I'm like, okay, we need to stop. We need to do something very different. We've done all the regular stuff. We've talked to some vets, right? They've had their traditional ideas. Cool, fine. Some of that is not working. If you continually express anal glands, they'll get used to that expression and they won't do it on their own or won't do it as well on their own. So we don't really want to get into, well, I'll just express them every 2 weeks. We don't really want to get into those habits with them if we can avoid it, okay? And then I don't even know how this came up that she fed this dog every 3 hours. So my working theory, this is where my head went with it. Just file it away. You never know when you might need to pull it out. Is if we layer food, okay, we put in breakfast, right? Okay, and then we put in late morning breakfast, whatever it is, 3 hours later. And we still have a little bit of food in the stomach still, okay? The stomach starts again or never really stops digesting. All that new food it's working on, that bottom layer there is going to start to ferment. Okay, we put in some more food. That layer on the bottom gets bigger. And I'm exaggerating a little bit to paint a picture. And then we add in a little more food so that we always have digestion going on. We never get a break from that. So you're altering your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous systems. Your sympathetic, you know, your fight or flight, you run away from the tiger. Your parasympathetic, where you rest and digest, you lay around and digest your food. There's a time and a place for everything. So if you're constantly in a parasympathetic dominant state and you're constantly digesting, that's where all of the energy in the nervous system, that's where all that energy is going. Plus we have fermenting food in there because we never quite finish to an empty stomach. And so now we have fermentation going on. We're forming toxins in the body that then are leaking out into the system. And the system is then collecting them into the anal glands because that is one of the jobs of the anal glands, is to help remove toxins from the body. That is one of their jobs, along with the skin. She is not particularly bad coach, not particularly itchy, but that could have how it presented. You know, it can always present differently, right? But let's take a look at everything as a whole. So now these anal glands keep filling up. So what if there's actually nothing wrong? We are adding too much in. This pet parent wanted to do so much for her animal, wanted to love it so much that she wanted to make sure all that food got in that animal every single day, that was too much for the system. It's a working theory. No guarantees here. But what we have been doing has not been changing anything. I'm always looking for change. Okay, going here, doing this is not changing anything. So what can we change here? And a lot of times, it's stop. Just stop. Just stop doing anything and everything. I know there's podcasts where Dr. Judy Jacek's been on, and it's a common theme in our conversations. She's like, I just have people stop. Stop all the supplements. Stop all the add-ins. Stop it, because we have no idea what is contributing to what symptoms are showing up. Your animal is never wrong. There is nothing wrong here to fix, but what can we change here? What can we do differently to get something to shift and change? And sometimes you shift and change, that's not helpful. Then you stop and you shift and change again. And the more we stay out of, I'm a bad pet parent, I did this wrong, you know what, let's do more, right? Grateful to live in the US. Here in the US, we generally subscribe to the point of view that more is better. And like I mentioned earlier, how many of us ever give our bodies a chance to get hungry? How often you have a bad day, you shovel in extra chocolate to make yourself feel better. So we use food very similar to how this was being used with this dog. It was just too much. The system couldn't handle the too much, couldn't handle all the, I love you, here's some more food. I love you, I need to get all this in you because the bag said so. I love you, so I'm going to watch and hover over you and notice every minutia of behavior. And that's a lot of energy for a little critter to handle. That's a lot of energy anybody, small child, a husband, a boyfriend, a big dog, a horse. That's a lot of projected energy, all in the name of love. Have you noticed what you can quote unquote, or what people think they can get away with? Yeah, I'm going to use it. Get away with in the name of love. I can tell you you're the stupidest person I know because I love you. I can project so much energy onto this being because I love it. I am going to make this dog a neurotic mess because I'm a neurotic mess for one, and now I'm going to make you a neurotic mess, but I love it so much that that's okay. And I talk about the dogs in Costa Rica here and there, right? And when you go to a different country, he's just like, and yes, I have totally done my versions of that too. Katie's like, must be why Grace goes into a different room at times. I love Katie and Grace. Well, yeah, sometimes they need to escape our crazy. Sometimes I've told people, get another dog. Let's split up the crazy. If you're going to obsess so much about your animals, you're going to love them to death. Let's split it up. Let's cut the energy in half. Let's get a younger dog that requires more exercise from you and classes and training so you can funnel that into something else instead of the minutia of your old dog that today didn't feel like yesterday, and what does that mean, and what should I do about it, and all of that energy that gets projected at them. Literally loving them to death. And what if more is not always better? You know, this is why we talk about energy here. That's why we look at things differently. That's why we ask questions. That's why I encourage and empower you to know what you know about your animals. What is required here? How, and getting, and that other tool, getting your animals involved in it. So we're kind of all these tools that we've been talking about for the last so many months is a little bit of a culmination here. How cool is that? What does this say up here? Oh, Keisha was talking about a version of this with essential oils. How often people will do too much or too many. Yeah, and it can wreak havoc on the system. There's so many layers in those essential oils of stuff. And we are so conditioned, so conditioned, especially here in the US, especially in this time, in this space of instantaneous. We have so many pills that we can go get that will eliminate symptoms instantaneously, that when you choose to take a different route, you choose to just stop feeding the animal for a day, 2 days. We are talking about a 6-year-old healthy dog. We're not talking about a diabetic or a senior dog or a puppy. We're talking about an adult dog that, what if we just stopped feeding that animal for a day and cut the food in half and see what we get? We may get a really hungry dog that's a lot more alive because they're not so busy digesting, resting and digesting and laying around trying to handle the massive amounts of food that are going in the system. And then all of the stuff that happens after that. But in this reality, we're so used to, here's your pill, let's get rid of the symptoms. And we have some fabulous pills that instantaneously get rid of stuff, right? Like they take away a headache. But what's causing that headache? Who cares? It's gone now, right? Hey, these anal glands keep filling up. It's very possible, depending on what vet she was choosing, that they're like, hey, let's just remove them. There you go, your problem is solved. They will no longer fill up. Where do those toxins go then? And there was no talk of that in this particular situation, but that happens. Okay, that's the problem. Let's fix it with this. But it's not the fix. It removes that symptom. We are still generating toxins in that body that are going to have to come out one way or another. And what is that going to look like? But hey, the anal glands aren't filling up. It's a little dramatic, right? It's a little, oh my gosh, and it still does occur. But just stopping the food, cutting it back, and seeing what we get is not going to be instantaneous. And that's what we talked about. I'm like, this is going to be a journey. We have to allow the body to work on fixing itself, healing itself, getting back to its center, and letting it choose how much it would like to eat. I know how much food you think this little critter needs, and how much more food means I love it the most. But what if we took a breath, we stopped, and let the animal choose and follow their lead for a little bit and see what we get? We can always course correct as we need to too. And that, I think, is what is A, scary to people, and B, appears to be a lot of work. Because it is easier to take that pill and just be done with it. It's a point of view. You can agree with it, align with it, resist and react to it. It's just a point of view that's out there. And so we talked about a lot of this as a journey. And it's been a journey so far. I mean, this little critter has shown Mama lots of stuff, right? And because she was actually eating a dehydrated raw diet, so Mom thought I was doing everything right, perfect, and correct with the diet, because I was doing this and not this. Again, that's a point of view. Okay. But she assumed it was all right and correct and perfect, instead of, oh, maybe just massive amounts of that is too much for this animal. And that's why she's like, okay, should I change the food? And should we find out what she's allergic to? I'm like, stop. We're just going to cut the food down and we're going to see what we get. And how many of us are comfortable with changing something and just seeing what we get? We would always just, how many of us just want the right answer? If I do this, this is what's going to change on Tuesday, right? Maybe. They drive people batty because a lot of what I work in is the maybes of the world, the possibilities of the world. If we change this, maybe this will shift. We have to do this. We have to breathe and we have to see. And somewhere along the way, that has turned into a lot of work in people's minds. And it's turned into a bigger commitment than, I'm just going to go get this pill and this will handle it. Is it? Sometimes. Sometimes not. But what would it take for people to at least take a look at it? Ask some questions. Amber says, going back to when you said ask questions. I've been trying not to get the princess to eat. Hang on. Okay, hang on. Princess is a kitty. What's not even her name, but the princess is a kitty. Been trying to get her to eat wet food for 2 years. Yeah, she won't. So she asked out loud the other night, and her son, who, how old is 12 now? When did that happen? And Aiden said because she doesn't like the texture. He goes, do you like, I love this. She doesn't like it because it's like soggy fries. And that came from the kid who thinks she's crazy for talking to the animals. Well, and I love this. Thank you, Amber. Thank you. Because we also think, well, Dr. Andy says ask a question. If I ask a question, I'll get the answer right then, and then that'll be good. 2 years she's been asking and waiting for an awareness, waiting for this animal to show her something, give her something, all of that jazz. And we actually needed a translator. But that's where asking questions brings up an energy and it allows for possibilities. It's not ask a question, get the right answer, do the right thing, and make sure it happens all in this time frame that you decided that it's going to be 3 days. And that's where a lot of people, I'm so grateful for this. Thank you, Amber. And so grateful for your tenacity to keep working with Kitty and asking Tia and looking at the questions and looking at the energy and, you know, all of that, because it's a process, it's a journey, and sticking with it. Because a lot of people will ask, not get anything, or the animal continues to hate what the canned food, and then, that doesn't work. I'll just, do this. That didn't work. It wasn't that it didn't work, it just wasn't the time. You just didn't get the awareness. Well, actually, Aiden got it. How cool is that? And he shared it. Now, how do we get past soggy fries and the texture? We may not. And so maybe we work on clearing all of our points of view about her eating dry food, and that's just okay, because the less resistance and reaction you have to her continuing to choose what she would like to choose, the less implications, the less what's the word I want? Less stuff that you will project onto her that this is bad and awful that then she will create in her body. If, let's say I have clients, they sometimes come in and go, I remember one particular gal, it was a doodle of sorts, this was so many years ago, and she goes, yeah, I feed Beneful. The dog was 12, had no health problems whatsoever. She had no points of view in her world that it was wrong or bad or inadequate. And so the dog was never projected on with all of those. And so this is a question that I have looked at here and there. And if If I could get rid of all my points of view that I have about feeding kibble, could I do it? Because if you get rid of all your points of view and you don't project anything and there's nothing bad or wrong about it, your animals should not present with health issues. It's a working theory. I don't plan on doing that, but how often do things show up because we have decided that's what's going to show up if I feed this animal this kibble for this long? And if we don't have that point of view, we don't have that alignment and agreement, that resistance and reaction, it doesn't show up. I was just talking with a client about what she called working her butt off, educating herself on vaccines, limiting those to what was required, raw fed. And she goes, and I'm still befumbled about the amount of cancer that we still had to deal with our animals. I go, it is interesting, right? Because what if our point of view about doing everything right, we shouldn't have this? But we have that point of view, so we are still seeing, there's no guarantees. It's what is going to work for you and what you choose to do with your animals and yourself and your children and your relationships and so on and so forth. It is your choice. And it doesn't guarantee you anything. And to be vigilant about your points of view. Be vigilant. I have this point of view over here. Okay, how can I change that? All right, I have this point of view. I'm not willing to change that just yet. Okay, but you're in allowance and you are aware of it. Exactly, Amber. And what if it works for Tia? Because how do you fight against a being that hates the texture of soggy fries? Most likely, your insistence will make it, your insistence that that's wrong and incorrect and you should just get over that, will lock it in more, and she will resist you more and love kibble even more. So some more energies to play with. And Christy says if that cat got hungry enough, she'd probably eat wet food. It's a possibility. It's a meat. That, Keisha, write that down. We're going to do a whole live on that energy. Because we've gone about, I will not eat liver for the same reason, right? Keisha's played with all her ferals. No problem with the cheap stuff, LOL. Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to revisit this energy, right? And I want to do, if they get hungry enough, they will eat. I want to do that too. So thank you, Christy. That was awesome. Because there's a lot of energies wrapped up into that. There's lots of points of view wrapped up into that. And is it even true? I don't know. We're going to talk about that another time. We've gone a lot longer than I thought we would. It's so funny what I think, where these TLCs are going to go and where they do go. And again, so grateful you are, or rather, what energy, or rather, which one? I don't know what you're asking me, Keisha. Okay. Anyway, anything else? Hungry enough. Yes. Another TLC about hungry enough. Yes. Cool. Any other questions out in the world? Anything up in your world? Even if it pertains to this or not. Usually I do that a little sooner. Sorry, folks. Okay. See. 10-day hunger strike. I knew she went on a hunger strike. I didn't realize it was that long. And most people wouldn't even make it 10 days. So that's pretty impressive on Amber's part too. Because we go to this, our animals must eat. We didn't even get into that. Like when your animals are under the weather and don't want to eat, and how many of us are shoveling food in them? Right? Just because they should eat 2 meals a day or whatever. What if they don't feel good? What if they skipped a meal? It's harder on us. What does grace require? I'm going to need a little bit more, Katie. Although, did you leave? Safe travels? Or are you leaving next Monday? Katie and Grace are coming back to Colorado. So I've been missing my friends. We're going to hang out. So safe travels, or if you're in the middle of your travels, thank you for She hasn't left yet. Okay. Or her long morning walk. Okay, my friends. All right. Thank you so much for being here. So grateful. Invite more friends. Oh, they're still at grandma's. Well, say hi to grandma for me. Invite some more friends. Let's have bigger conversations. Let's look at things very different. Let's create space and change and have some more fun. Right? Right? I will be back here next Wednesday. Not Wednesday, next Tuesday. Tuesday live chat, TLC. 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here on Dr. Andy Harper's page. Yes, and we'll go from there. But until then, my magical friends, how much fun can you have with your animals? Bye-bye.